Welcome to another episode of Customer Success Talks, Real Challenges, Experts Advice. We have another episode, and there's a ton more coming with a lot of amazing guests that always take the time to sit down and, I'm actually standing, but you know what I mean, and take their time actually to come and coordinate stuff and talk about amazing topics. And today it's a really interesting one because today we're going to be talking about persuasion. But now, we're going to talk about the ethical persuasion. And for that, we have an expert on the field that, Chris, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Can you please tell everyone who are you, who is the Cialdini Institute, what you do, and give us all the information about you?
Yeah, definitely. So just some brief background history on me. It's going to sound funny, but I'm an entrepreneur who
Mhm.
happens to be a pretty good dentist. Dentistry is my main vehicle. It has been at least for the last 21 years. But it was interesting. I came to a point in my career where I had four dental practices in Charlotte, North Carolina that I'd built, and they're successful by all accounts. But in essence, I had when I was still trying to do clinical care on my patients 5 days a week, running the business operations for those four practices, managing the 100+ people that worked for me at the time with team members and doctors. I had realized that I had basically, trapped myself in my own company, if you will.
Oops.
So I had to decided to make a bold move, and as one of my mentors said, subtract to multiply. So I decided to do something a little crazy, and I sold my two best, most profitable businesses, the two best practices, and I took over the two worst ones. In essence, trying to buy back my time because I felt like if I could get more control and autonomy, and I wish my other partners I had well with the good companies, that I
Right.
could do more with those smaller ones than I did when I had four in total. And that's actually when I got first introduced to Dr. Robert Cialdini, and his, at the time, six principles of persuasion, in which we now know there are seven present. And so I heard Dr. Cialdini do this keynote presentation on his principles, and instantly realized there were one of them that was absolutely key to the success of my business because it was the root cause behind all the behavior problems I was seeing in those struggling practices.
Right.
Right. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. But in essence, I got to go train under Cialdini. I became a Cialdini method certified trainer. So I was licensed to speak on his behalf. And I kind of went back to my two practices and used them as my laboratory, if you will.
Hmm.
And I would, take behavioral science research studies that I'd learned from him and then applied those to my pain points and challenges in my practice, thinking, well, if it worked over here in this study, maybe it'd work for me. And boy, did it. And literally some massive amounts of growth. We're talking, $1 million of growth at each of my two dental practices, 2 years in a row.
Whoa.
Now, now, what's important about this is that this was right after the 2008 housing crisis in the United States. So when
Perfect
the
timing.
economy was tanking, right? People weren't spending money anywhere. A big time of uncertainty, and yet we had $1 million growth 2 years in a row throughout that. Okay, so what it kind of showed me the power of these principles was that it's not about the money. It doesn't matter what's going on in the economy. When you really understand what people are really using at their core to make the majority of their decisions, right? In the past, I was making my strategies for my businesses all the excuses I would hear from people.
Right.
It's too expensive, or my insurance doesn't cover it, or what have you. So our solution to that, the strategy was, well, if it's too expensive, I guess we got to discount it. We got to give it away, in essence. Well, no, I realized, why are we making the strategy around the excuse when the real root cause of what they're using to decide is over here? Let me
Uh,
make my strategies here, and let's see if we get a different outcome. And lo and behold, I found out it wasn't about the money or what my insurance covers and some of those other barriers you may hear in your type business for those that are listening. So obviously I drank the Kool-Aid early on and just went all in on Cialdini's principles and became a believer when I saw the rapid results in my practice. And then I was able to then go and speak in the dental industry to promote these principles. And I've been doing that for probably the last 12 years. And lo and behold, when, in the past, to get this information above and beyond what's in Dr. Cialdini's books, because the books really kind of show you and tell you that these principles exist and give you some
right.
studies to prove they exist. but it didn't really tell you how to activate them, like turn them on in a situation. And it doesn't really teach you how to amplify their power when they're present. So you had to come to somebody like me, one of the Cialdini trainers, to do that. But he kept us kind of scarce. There's only 12 of us in the world that have done that. So now that he's 79, we've kind of created the Cialdini Institute as his legacy project. So now instead of coming to a trainer like myself, you can come to an online platform and learn these principles from Dr. Cialdini directly, which is kind of cool. So I was honored a couple of months ago when he asked me to step away from my businesses in dentistry and lead the U.S. team as the U.S. CEO.
Whoa. Congratulations, Chris. That's an amazing step.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been quite a ride.
Let's talk about what's the difference between persuasion and manipulation, because this is the thing. I have had this conversation with a couple of people, friends, colleagues at work, about today's episode. It's super interesting. Everyone likes talking about persuasion, but there's always a small line between the ethical side and the manipulation side of things. So, can we dive a little bit into that side?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you brought that up because us at the Institute and Dr. Cialdini has kind of built his reputation on the ethical use of these principles, right? It's
Absolutely.
like most things. I know I can influence somebody down a path, right? And a path that and a decision I want them to make. But just because I know I can move them down that path, should I? Right? And how do you know, right? So this key where these ethics come into play. So let's back it up just for the definitions alone is where it starts. So when you hear things like manipulation, coercion, intimidation, some people call it hierarchical authority, meaning like somebody who's in charge of you, like a boss or a police officer or somebody like that telling you what to do. Okay, your
Yeah.
parents. Right? All of those are kind of united by the same thing, and they're completely polar opposite of what true influence and persuasion is. But I realize, much as you have talking to your colleagues, this word persuasion kind of gets lumped into those other categories, right?
Automatically. Automatically.
Yeah, it's kind of got a bad connotation to it. It's got a bad rap, as we say. And but by definition, they're completely opposite. So when we talk about coercion, intimidation, force, hierarchical authority, somebody telling you what to do, those are all united in one simple thing. You don't feel like you have a choice in the matter. Therefore, someone else is taking away your control. Okay, that's what it comes down to. You don't feel like you have a choice. I mean, I guess you do it or die, right?
Yeah.
Something bad is going to happen, but you don't really feel like you have a viable choice. Therefore, the control is out of your hands. Versus true influence and persuasion, by definition, you as the recipient receive a message in some format. You hear it, you see it, you read it, whatever, but you're exposed to a message in some way, and something about that message changes your mindset, right? About that thing. It changes your perspective. And when you
Mhm.
change your mindset, your perspective, you end up changing your thinking about that thing. And when you change your thinking, you change your behavior as a result. The difference here is that nobody forced you to change your mindset. Nobody told you to make that mindset. You did, right? So it's the control is still with you when it comes to influence and persuasion. So we're not forcing people to do anything. We're not manipulating them. We're not coercing them to do anything. With true influence and persuasion, we're just putting choices in front of them and guiding them down the path. But they're still free to choose not to walk the path or the choices they're going to make down the path that they're going to walk down. So that's one of the things. Making sure that we differentiate those two. So influence and persuasion is all about choice. Those other things, you don't feel like you have a choice.
Yeah.
Now, the next thing is like, how do we use these ethically? Because ethics is kind of subjective. It kind of depends, right? It's up to you, and it's defined by your thoughts, values, beliefs, your parents, your religion, the continent you grew up on, your culture. All of those things kind of shape your own personal code of ethics, which is makes it subjective, but it also makes it a kind of a gray, murky area because if everybody's got a different code, well, how do we know what's ethical or not? So, one of the things Dr. Cialdini looked for was some objective criteria to define no, 100% of the time, when is this ethical? Right.
Yeah.
And how can we be confident that if we've checked these boxes, we're on the ethical side of the line? So, just because I know I can influence them, now I'm confident that I should. Right.
Mhm.
And so, one of our first rules is just simple: is it true? Whatever you're talking about, whatever you're presenting to them, is it true? And not kind of true, not sort of true,
Is it
true,
true? Yeah,
right?
that's the word.
So if I tell you that I have a certain number of items to present to you to sell, and I've only got so many of them, right, in this moment, then I better not have a plethora of them across the street that I could have access to. So if I tell you the resources are limited or running out, they should be limited and running out,
Yeah,
right? If I say I'm only going to give it to two people, then I should only give that thing to two people, right? Is it true at its core? Another big one is, it's got to be a win-win for both sides, right? But in our world, we call that a net win-win, meaning in any interaction with another person or another party, when you're negotiating or presenting something to sell, there's always some kind of give and take, right? There's always some kind of cost to doing business with each other. But ideally, the benefit of doing business with each other should outweigh that cost. Hence
yeah,
the net win, the net benefit. I know in my world, of course, it costs me to run a dental practice, right? Team members, salaries, lab fees, the building, the equipment I had to buy, my education, right? All of that cost went into this thing. But the benefit is if I take care of our patients, if they have a great experience, okay, then obviously we should charge enough fees that after all those expenses, there's some margin for profit there that makes
but
it worth.
you're also giving back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And at the same time, when the patient comes in my practice, right, they need to know it's going to be a net win for them. Hopefully, they know they're going to have to pay for their services in some capacity. It's not free, but the benefit is obviously if they come in pain, they leave without pain. If
yeah,
they come in bad oral health, then we get them in better oral health, as an example, right? So there's a net win at the end of that. So as long as it's in both of our best interests to do business together and to get a yes in this moment, then objectively we can feel confident that it's time to move forward and tap into whatever persuasion principle is present. And that's really kind of the third piece of the puzzle. We're not artificially planting these things in situations. Okay.
hmm,
Dr. Cialdini realized is when you're interacting with others, there's always at least one of these seven principles available in that moment organically, naturally, for you to tap into, right? We don't have to bring them in artificially. They're there already. All
yeah,
you have to do is be the detective and figure out, well, wait a minute, which principles are here that I can naturally tap into? And so if we're naturally tapping into them, it's natural to the situation. Again, objectively, we're on the ethical side of the line.
hmm,
So we really dive into it. Is it true? Is it natural to the situation? Is it a net win-win for us both? Okay, now we can feel confident we're on that ethical side.
yeah. Because at the end we are guiding, and that's what I want to highlight here, that you said guiding them. And also I will just recap a little bit of what you said, Chris, because I think it's super important to highlight those words, like you feel that you have the control, you feel that you have a choice, and then it's a win-win situation. Is it true? Is it actually true? You're guiding them. And at the end, customer success is also about guiding our customers. It's about listening to their needs, because we can use keywords. We can use all the seven principles of persuasion that Dr. Robert Cialdini has given to the world. We can do that. But at the end, if we don't know the needs of our customers, the logical side of things is going to be priority for them. The logical side of, okay, yeah, you're not giving me the revenue promise, the ROI is going down, or the service that you're providing as a whole company is not actually what I was expecting and what it was sold to me. Yeah, all of these persuasion methods can influence, but at the end it will not overcome the logical side.
Definitely. Well, and that's really part of our challenge is when you're presenting anything to another party, whether that be sales or education or whatnot, is most of the time we're asking someone to make a decision as if they are a true expert and understand the thing that they are purchasing or saying yes to the level that you do, right? The
Mhm.
level of expertise, training, and experience. For
what
instance,
what what do you mean?
for instance, if I'm presenting my treatment plan to my patients about the work
Mhm.
they need in the mouth, I'm presenting this treatment they need and these options as if they understand their dental condition like I do. Okay. But the truth is, they don't. Nobody does. Unless they've physically gone through it already, they honestly have no idea what I'm talking about. Not really. Not to the level of
Yeah,
But if they really knew what I knew was going to happen to them by doing nothing and how their condition was going to worsen, it was going to cost them more time, money, and pain, then this would be an easy decision. Oh, yeah, I don't want that to happen. Okay, let's move it. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's this double-edged sword of if they knew what we knew, we could speak to them logically about
yeah.
the situation. But since they don't, this is why we have to guide them, right? And
Mhm.
do the best we can to guide them down to the right answer, despite not being the expert in that area.
And that's where you're touching about a principle actually, which is authority. And we're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But let's see. Let's go directly into the seven principles.
Right.
Let's go one by one and let's see how they can apply to customer success as well. Dr. Cialdini has an amazing book that I have seen everywhere since I've been doing a research about for today's episode. I have a big FOMO right now because I don't have it with me yet, but it's on the way. And I noticed that there are two books or two versions of it. The book is called Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. And there is the same book, but more scientific side of things. And today we're going to, of course, because of time, we're going to touch on high level each principle. But can you give us an overview? Because I can't, sorry, people, about the book.
Yeah, definitely. Well, here's what's fun to note that Dr. Cialdini wrote Influence, the original book, 40 years ago, right? 40 years ago.
Wow.
Uh, and yet in 2021, 2022, and 2023, when the top US CEOs and entrepreneurs were surveyed about which are the best business books they would recommend people to read, guess what the number one book that came out of this organization that researched this with those CEOs was each of those 3 years? Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion, right? So how can a book that's 40 years old still be number one in the top players mindset, right? It shows you just how timeless these principles are.
Mhm.
They're building blocks of why societies even work and
Right.
function. So they're foundational to people. So as long as there are people interacting with other people, these principles will apply. Now, when we get to the point where it's people just talking to machines, that's a different story. But as long as there's people talking to people, these things apply. So our first principle, of course, is called reciprocity. This is a biblical principle. It's as old as time. This principle basically states that if somebody gives you a gift of value, of significance, then there's this obligation created inside of you to give
Mhm.
back, right? And to give
Mhm.
back in kind. So if somebody gives you a present on your birthday, the odds are pretty good you're going to give them a present on their birthday. Or if they do you a favor, you're probably going to do them a favor at some point, right? So we when this obligation is created, we have this need to scratch it off our list and we return in kind. We've got the liking principle. Okay. Dale Carnegie wrote a whole book on basically this principle alone, how to maximize it to the nth level. But liking is simply this: we like to do business with people we like. Okay.
Mhm.
If I don't
Mhm.
know you and I don't like you, then I'm probably not going to say yes to you if you're asking me to buy something or say yes to your request, right?
That's part of
So,
the report of building
yeah,
report as well.
part of how you build rapport with people.
Yeah.
So, we got to build liking, but this principle goes deeper than that because it's not about you liking them. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not about them liking you. It's actually the opposite. It's about you showing them that you like them first, right? And
Mhm.
this is kind of where reciprocity comes in. If you're the first to show them that you like them, they typically reciprocate and like you back. If you find things like we like to do business with those that are like us, who have commonalities, similarities, common interests as us. Oh,
Mhm.
you got 2 kids, I got 2 kids. Oh, you like that sports team, I love that sports team, right? So when we find connections in others and we're the ones that bring that up, okay, that shows that we like them as a result. Oh, you have this, we have this connection. We like to say yes to those kind of people as well. So, liking and reciprocity, as you said, are powerful principles to help you build rapport with people, to
Absolutely.
build a bridge, if you will, to build a relationship when there's not one present, or to strengthen it if it's already kind of weakly there. Next up, you've got the
Well,
newest principle that kind of falls into this category. It's called unity.
let me let
Okay.
me let me just add something here, Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but when it comes to reciprocity, re,
Reciprocity.
reciprocity, is definitely how that can be applied in the day to day as a customer success manager. As per what I'm hearing from you, it could be simple as when having small talks with our customers, when having those conversations. Yeah, we're building rapport, of course. The idea is always business and revenue, but there will be some time to have those small talks in the conversation where I give a little bit of myself, so that way that person can give back to me. And why not? As we build that likeness between us, if I'm able to be likable for that person, I can start asking small favors. Like, for example, can you answer this survey? Can you give a small 5 minutes video to us about the success of your company using our product? I think that that will be a good first step in those small conversations that we have with our customers to start building that reciprocity. I'm so bad at pronouncing that. Sorry.
That's okay. So think of it this, right? So when you think of a gift, most people think of like a physical, tangible gift that you could give someone, right? Here's a gift card, here's a cash, check, whatever. But actually, some of the more powerful gifts are the intangible things that you've
Mm,
already given your customer and don't realize that they perceived it as the gift that it is. For instance, doing them a favor. That's not a a cash kind of thing. That's just okay. You did me a favor, thanks. And that's one. You took something off my plate. Great.
yeah. And Chris,
Or
what about if we sent a birthday card? Would that count?
well, a birthday card is just acknowledging them on their birthday. This would be more like here's how you know when you've given someone a gift of value, even if they just paid you for your service, and even if it meant nothing to you.
Mm-hmm.
When they generally go out of their way to praise or thank you for what you've done. Like so in my world, if I've got a patient and I've just done dental work on them, and at the end of the appointment or even the next appointment I see them, they're like, "Oh gosh, doctor, thank you so much. You put that implant in my mouth. I didn't even feel it. I had no
Right.
pain. That was an amazing experience." Like so when they praise you or generally thank you so much for doing that for me, right? You should
Mm-hmm.
start to hear that as what it is. And what it is you gave them a gift to them, something that was significant to them. Experience, whatever. It's an intangible gift. So when you hear that genuine thank you for what you've done for them, or praise like that for what you've done for them, that's actually a reciprocity moment. That if you had something to ask of them, like for a review, for a referral, to buy your product or next product or service, that's the time to ask for it. So we're giving away these intangible gifts every day. We just don't see them for what they are. So start looking for those. And when you find yourself in that moment, just be ready. Oh, wait, okay, I guess they really valued this thing. Okay. That means they want to give back. What can I ask for? Now's the time to do it.
It's about being like listening to those keywords, but also having that feeling as well, like that gratitude of of those actions that you're doing as well. But it's also part of what you were going to talk about, which is unity, the second principle of Dr. Robert Cialdini principles, and it's about feeling included. So can you please jump into that one?
Yeah, so unity is our newest principle. It's the yeah, Dr. Cialdini talked about it in his book Persuasion. But in essence, unity is slightly different than liking. Liking is about we have a connection. You have two kids, I have two kids, right? But still in that scenario, it's a me versus you situation. Okay. What unity is all about is it's not a you versus me, it's a we situation.
Huh.
We are connected in this unit or category. We are the same family. Family is a powerful unity. We are the same sports team and the same sports fan. Okay. We are the same culture, the same religion, the same geographical location. We're from the South, as we like to say,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So when there's a unit of or a category that people associate themselves with that you're a part of, that unites you. It's not you versus me. It's we. We are this thing. We are of the same, if you will. And unity can be a powerful principle. If you are within the same unit and ask a request, it's hard to say no to somebody.
Yeah, because there's already a connection there, right?
Yeah, well,
There's
yeah.
an attraction.
It's a deep connection, right? Because again, think of it as a family member,
Mhm.
right? Isn't it hard to say no to family members?
Oh, I'm not gonna answer that because you never know.
They might be listening. Don't give any,
Absolutely.
yeah, don't give any hints.
I'm just wondering how can this be applied to customer success when it comes to Unity? I was thinking about the advocacy stage of the customer journey, which is okay. They are successful. They have been. They are adopted, and now we can also invite them to webinars, invite them to in-person events where we have other customers as well. So that I feel that that will be the connection that we that all have in common, which is we are using the same product and we're having similar experiences. Would that apply in that sense?
Well, you definitely want to make them a part of your family unit, meaning if they're a customer of your company, you want to let them know that then they're part of your family. They are of you as well. So sending them products and stuff and brand stuff with your own brand recognition, t-shirts and whatnot, with those things like we are our company's name, right? And have
Mhm.
them give them that as a gift, number one. And then when they start wearing that, they'll start recognizing themselves. So, back in the day, go back to commercials by Apple and PC, right? There was this Mac versus PC commercial battle, which was fantastic commercials. And PC was all like straightforward. I'm a PC. And you had this like, poor laid back
Marketing
dude,
can be
like,
tough.
yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm a Mac. Yeah, I see you over there, PC. Right. It was a great commercial because it made people draw a line and take a stand. What
Mm.
unit are you? Who do you associate with? Are you a Mac or you're a PC? Right. So reminding them, and then of course the Mac people took it to the next level. So now they're not just buying laptops, they're buying iWatches and they're buying iPhones and they're buying more iPads and iPods and everything else.
Now we're
Not,
creating fans.
yeah, nothing on the PC side because I'm a Mac, I'm an Apple. Now I'm on the PC side. Those folks are got to re-engage their base even more and motivate them to go deeper into that products line services that PC offered as well. And they're like, I wouldn't touch Mac, because I'm not a Mac, I'm a PC. So just
Ah.
genius marketing on their part and getting people to identify with their unit. And once you identify with their unit, then it makes your other products and services that much easier to want make them want and desire.
And that opens as well the stage for the next principle, which I feel the next one to jump into will be liking. Because if we are easily influenced by people we like, then you kind of touched on this already before. Factors that increase liking include physical attractiveness, of course, but also similarities, complements, familiarity. And here's the important side of building that relationship with the customer by being genuine, just asking some questions. How is everything on your end? If you give, they will give back. But can we touch a little bit more into the third principle, liking?
Yeah, I mean, it's just as you said, finding connections in others and bringing those connections to the surface shows them that you like them because you took the time to find those connections, right? So, it's important to interview that customer and find out what are their liking, what are their similarities, what are their hobbies, their interests that they feel comfortable talking about. If you want to be strategic about this, then you can search them out, right? If they've got a public profile on Facebook or
Mm.
LinkedIn, their website, and you see pictures of them wearing, sports teams and whatnot,
Mhm.
which people feature. And if you have a genuine interest and connection to those, then that's great information you can bring up in your conversation to show them that you're connected to them in that way. If there's something genuine that you like about them, just praising them and telling them that you like that thing is a way to engage liking. I mean, we like those who like us and tell us or show us that they like us, right? So one of the ways I do that with my patients is I ask them to take pictures with me after their dental visits, and we have these cute little signs that say you have relate back to their mouth, like I can't feel my face, but in a
Right.
good way. So
That's
play off the tongue, and they're smiling, and because I think about it this way, like who would you normally ask to take a photo, an enemy or a friend?
totally a friend.
Right? So
Yeah.
just by the act of asking to take a photo with them implies we're buddies, we're pals, we're
I trust
friends,
you. Hmm.
trust you, right? And so sharing those photos with them now after the fact is my reciprocity gift back. And if they appreciate it, then they'll share that with other potential customers. They'll post that to their social media pages, right? They'll refer more people because of that as a result. So yeah, these are unity, reciprocity, liking are really powerful ways that you can build solid relationships with people. And if you have a solid relationship, you don't lose them, right? We
No.
don't have attrition. We don't lose them out the back door. Why would they go anywhere else?
And if it happens, there's a high possibility they will come back or you will find them somewhere. In customer success, if our champion is not anymore in the company and we for some reason they churned, let's say hopefully it's gonna be something that is outside of your hands, like maybe they change jobs, for example. That person, if they like you as a person and also the product and the experience, and they see the value is gonna they can go to any other company and like, hey, I used ABC product, it was amazing, let me reach out to Byron, let me reach out to Chris. And it's so funny because I when I was doing some interviews to find a job, what I did is always I did a really good research on the people that were going to interview me. And I always try to find those similarities that you're saying. And I never went directly into, hey, I saw that you like soccer. Well, what the hell are you stalking me? No.
Right. Yeah.
Instead, right? Instead, I was like trying to use words that makes them think about that moment. It's I don't know how I can explain that, but like if soccer is an example, if it's a type of music or if it's a type of event, I can as I talk during the interview, I can use that in as an examples, and it will trigger that. When it comes to customers, I will say it's similar. If at some point you will get to know them, you're the experts on your portfolio of customers. But at the beginning, if you do that research and you're able to bring some 3 points during the conversation, if possible, I think that that will be a great way of starting this principle.
Definitely. Kind of my shortcut is I've kind of shared with my team members everything that I'm comfortable talking about with another person, like my
Uh-huh.
hobbies, my interests, my kids, whatever, my favorite sports teams. So my team knows everything that I'm willing to talk about. So I use them as my detectives first. So they sniff out that information with the customer or the patient and then bring it to me. They find the connection on my behalf. And then so they'll come to me and say, "Hey, Dr. Phelps, we got a patient in room 3. She's got 2 kids like you do, and she loves dogs." Okay, great. So now I can walk in. "Hey, nice to meet you, Ms. Jones. Hey, I hear you got 2 kids. I got 2 kids. Tell me about your kids." "Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
hear you got a dog. I love dogs. Tell me about your dog." Right? I don't have to waste time. I can just start with the connection, show it by bringing it to the surface by discussing with the patient, engage liking, and then move on to why we're really here.
And Chris, would you say that the order that we're following are the correct order to start the persuasion process? Because if we are in three, let's jump to number four. Would it be number four, social proof, the right one?
Social proof, yeah. Well, think about it this way. The first 3 are where we start because if people don't like you, there's no connection.
That's true.
Door to yes is already shut, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, once we've kept the door open and made some connections, now we're going to get into this realm of uncertainty, right? Should I pick you? Is this the right product or service for me? Are you going to take care of me? What's my experience going to be? Now we're going to shift in this realm of I like you, but I don't know if this is for me, right? This uncertainty realm. So social proof is a great principle to battle that because the principle basically states oftentimes we look to the evidence of what others are doing or have done to show us what we should do. Oh, well, that many people
Ah.
have bought your product or service and have said nice things about it. Okay, then I'll probably be safe doing the same.
This is what marketers, they are really good at doing that in the websites.
Definitely. Well, they follow Cialdini's principles. I mean, obviously, Amazon, if you think about it, the juggernaut that it is today, didn't start out selling a single thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we flash back years ago, it was one of the first big review sites where didn't care what the product was. You could go there and see if I was looking to buy a vacuum cleaner and go, okay, well, nobody said anything positive about these vacuum cleaners, but 5,000 people said something positive about this one.
Mm.
Okay. Well, I don't know anything about vacuums, so which one am I probably going to buy and be safe buying? I'll buy the one everybody recommended. Okay. So leveraging that social proof evidence of what others have said, recommended, or have done was key. And they did that for, thousands of products. And they got people used to coming to them as their now trusted source for information to get this social proof information.
Mm-hmm.
And they got really smart and they said, well, now that everybody's here, why don't we stop reviewing it, all these things? Why don't we sell them?
And
And
it's
thus,
isn't that the importance of in-person events, Chris? Because if you gather a lot of customers in one same event, they can communicate each other, and that's where the opportunities can grow. I'm thinking positive here because it could go wrong as well. So right, but if we think positive on the positive side, and they all gather and they all talk about the product, so this that social proof of, hey, I'm using this feature, it's helping me here. Oh, you're not. I think that will be part of a good way of upselling our customers. Do you agree?
Definitely, definitely. Again, they got to see that evidence that others have been here before and done that.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to be the first or feel like they're the first to try something. Because if you think about this from an evolutionary standpoint, think about like why do animals herd together? Why do birds flock? Why do fish school together? Like you think about a fish out in the ocean, if you've watched Nemo, Finding Nemo, like what happens when the little fishes out there are away from the school? They tend to get eaten, right? So we've kind of learned that bad things happen when the crowd moves one way and we're going a different way. That could be a dangerous situation. So automatically that creates more uncertainty. But they see that many more and others have like them have come before you. Okay, now I'm going to feel confident this might be for me.
Absolutely. And I want to just say something else here because on my research, I noticed that marketers are using this a lot, and I didn't ever notice it until now. So this is why, people, you have to go into the description, click on the link, and you will see the amazing discount that Chris provided for each one of you. And there you can see the discount and see everything that comes with it. And that way you can learn even more than what we're talking about here. But what I learned in the social proof side is that marketers are using testimonials, reviews, but also the retailers on the other side, they are showing how many people are voting for that specific um, product. And so if we jump from number 4 to number 5, do you think that number 5 in that case will be scarcity?
Well, the next one we definitely would be authority, right? So
Authority, okay?
social proof is one thing. We want to see what the evidence of what others are doing, but we've also learned that if everybody jumped off the bridge, then it may not be the best move for us.
That's true. My mom used to say that if your friends are gonna if they're gonna jump from a bridge, are you gonna do it as well? I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, that's true. Okay.
and then of course the answer is if you're a teenager, probably yes. But well, we all do accept this idea that it may not be in our best interest. As Mark Twain once said, "When I find myself on the side of the masses, I stop and ask why." Right? And does that make sense for me? Kind of thing. So really the next thing is authority, if we're still not sure, is but if they're the crowd has done it or said it, but now I've got trustworthy, credible experts telling me I should buy this or do this. We really that's what the authority principle is. We look to the evidence of trustworthy, credible experts to tell us what to do. Because truthfully, we don't have time to be an expert in everything.
Mm-mm. And it could be
Not that we
dangerous.
couldn't be, but because we're so distracted with so many things on our to-do list and whatever, then we need those experts' opinions as a shortcut to guide us. So if I got the experts telling me I need to do this or buy this, and I see that others have done this and seem okay or had a good result, okay, now you've satisfied my uncertainty. Now I'm ready. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we kind of get into the next realm with our last two principles of how do we
But
motivate action?
on this one, Chris, I want to add that it's super important authority for customer success because when we have meetings with a customer, of course, the idea is they talk 60, 70% of the time. This is a time for them. We are guiding them. We are building rapport so they can like us. We are also trying to show what other benchmarking, if possible. But then authority is super important because of what you said. We are influenced by people who we perceive as experts or figures of authority. And customer success managers, we have to do our best to position ourselves as trusted advisors, as partners for the customer. That way, they will trust on us. They will like us if they see us as an expert. And that way, if we are guiding them towards one side, it's because we are the experts, and the possibility that you're going to be successful, Mr. Customer, is high. So that's why I want to say that authority is a big principle for customer success.
It is. And a key point here to remember is it's not about you telling people you're the authority.
Mm, yeah.
It, how does it usually come off if I say, hey, Byron, I'm the expert in this and I'm the best at that, and look at all these things that I've done in my
Oh,
career,
that's
right?
nasty.
It usually comes off as arrogant or egotistical or in a
Yeah.
negative way, right? It turns more people off, right?
Yeah.
It's not about telling people you're the authority. It's about directly, it's about letting other people, other items, other things present you as the authority that you are, right?
Mhm.
Other people can brag on you all day long and tell about your accolades. That's a much different scenario, and it's better received by that person versus you trying to tell them. So that's the important thing. So, if you have awards, if you have, yeah, credentials, if you have things that can promote you as an authority, then let other people, other things present that on your behalf. So it's not you directly telling them
The
that you're the.
facts. The facts. Yeah.
Yep.
You were going to jump into number 6, right?
Yep. So now we got to figure out, well, how do we motivate action?
How do we
Right.
motivate to action?
So
Oh,
we've got a relationship. Okay. We've gotten people certain this is probably for them, but still no guarantee they're going to move. So this is what I call the I got time phenomenon kicks in, right? Unless it's like a pain point, like top of mind situation, then it's like, well, all right, I like you. No, I know I need to do it, but I don't have to do it right now. I'll get to it at some point.
Mm.
I got time,
And
is
that
really
happens
what
a lot, Chris, with customers because they're super busy.
it does. And that's what we're competing with, right?
Mhm.
Everything that they're busier with and is going to distract them from what we just talked about. Okay.
Mhm.
So, but if we motivate action today, we can avoid all that competition. So, how do we do that? Well, the next principle, and to me, probably the most powerful of the bunch, is consistency. Okay. So, this is the commitment principle. This was the root cause behind the majority of the problems I saw in my practices when I sold my two best ones and I took over the two worst ones. So, the principle basically, at its simplest, says when people make a commitment, they do. They follow through with that commitment and do what they said they were going to do. But if we think about this, that's what consistency is. And why do they do that? Well, there's this external influence on them to be consistent and do what they say they're going to do. And there's some internal influence on them to be consistent and do what they say they're going to do.
Mm.
Well, why is that? You have to think about the opposite of the word consistent. What do we call people who are inconsistent in their thoughts, actions, and beliefs, who don't
Mm.
routinely do what they say they're going to do? Is there any positive word to describe that person? No, right? We call them flakes, flip floppers, wishy washy. But a big one, we call those people liars. Okay. So that's the external social influence. We don't want others to perceive us as
Like
being
that. Uh-huh.
lying and inconsistent with our thoughts, actions, and beliefs. So we do. At the same time, we don't want to view ourselves internally as being like that, as liars and inconsistent in our. So it's actually one of the few principles that has a dual source of influence on you, external and internal. So if you get people to commit, it motivates action, and they do. Okay.
Mm.
So that, but the challenge I realized is, well, that's my problem. They're not doing, therefore, I'm not getting the commitment.
Yeah.
How do you get the commitment? That's the secret, right? Get better commitments, you'll see better outcomes in your customers moving forward.
And would you say that taking them to make small steps will be a good start? I
It
went to
is.
the research with articles from Dr. Robert Cialdini, and it says that on this one, consistency, it's what you said exactly: belief and values, external and internal, but also the way to start to make that trigger will be with small steps towards something, and that's where in customer success. When we have our meetings with our customers, let's call it QBRs or call it impactful meetings or give it a title, it's always about, okay, let's create the next milestones for the next quarter. These are the steps towards what you want, which is this revenue probably or this impact. In my end, I want you to renew. So making those more steps, I think is going to trigger that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. And one of the best ways to get commitments out of people is to ask commitment style questions, right?
Okay.
For instance, like if you're trying to ask a customer to renew, you could be interviewing them and say, "Hey, tell me about your experience this year. Has it been a great experience?" Yes. Okay. Have you seen value using our service? above and beyond what you paid for? Yes. Okay, great. Right. Do you see yourself working with us moving forward? Yes. Okay. Well, then here's what you got to do to renew. So automatically asking the right questions, commitment questions, puts them on the path to where it's going to be hard to say no to the request that's coming.
Yeah, and it gives you the time to prepare as well for that conversation. I heard that there's some customer success managers that on the invite on their calendar, their Calendly, they ask the question, if you will renew today, will you renew? Yes or no? So that way, when they receive the invite, they have that info there. But then
Right.
number seven and the last principle, Chris, of today's episode, which has been super interesting. And I wish we could have more hours, man, to talk deeper into this. But that's part of the course that the institute is giving, right? And well, we are all lucky that we have the discount. But the last one is making people more attractive to things that are limited, things that are just available. And I think that this one is easy also to take to the manipulation side, because I can say, hey, I have 5 glasses in stock when I really have 100. So can you go deeper into this one?
Yeah. So the last principle, of course, is called scarcity. And scarcity, by definition, is about resources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if resources are truly dwindling, running out, or about to disappear, then that Uber motivates you to want that thing more and do more to get it, even if you didn't want it to start with. Okay.
So we're
So
talking about FOMO, fear of missing out.
FOMO is built off the scarcity principle. It's at its core. Okay.
Oh, but it's okay.
Um,
Okay, it's kind of the manipulation side as well, right? Like it go towards that side.
when it's not true, of course, right? So, for instance, if during COVID, right, and when people were staying in their homes, and there was this idea that they weren't going to be able to get out much to do their normal shopping and whatever, then there was a run on the grocery stores, and toilet paper could not be found. Right, toilet paper became the scarce resource,
So,
and people, but because people wanted it more, and if you think, or maybe you're an economist and you've heard of supply and demand. Well, scarcity is behind that, right? If there's a high demand and less supply, people pay more, right? They want to get it
yeah.
more. If you think about Black Friday here in the United States, right? How can you go from a day of Thanksgiving and people loving each other to the very next day, they'll literally kill each other over $10 TV? Why? Because there's only two of those TVs, right? And they want it now more than the other 10 people that are after the thing. So scarcity is a powerful motivator and can cause some abnormal behaviors as a result. But I mean, if you think about it, this goes back to this evolutionary pull again. For those of you listening or watching this, right? If the oxygen was running out of your room right now, in this moment, how many of you would prefer to know before it runs out versus when it runs out?
Easy, yeah.
Right? You want to know
Absolutely.
before, because what's
Absolutely.
that going to motivate you to do? Oh
To
crap, I got that here and go find some air. Okay. So the pull from scarcity, the fear comes from losing a resource that could be life or death for us. That's
Mhm.
really what it's about. But our lizard brain through time has not been able to discern true life or death resources running out with mundane everyday things potentially that could be an inconvenience in this moment that's running out. The pull
Mhm.
is the same, right? And that's why it's a very powerful tool to motivate. Here's the way I recommend it, right? Let's say you're going to do a special, okay?
Mhm.
$500 off as an example. Don't just limit the time and say for a limited time, okay? Well, at a minimum, you should limit the time versus just having it available whenever. But instead of just limiting the time, why don't you say, how about only two $500 specials remain?
Ooh.
Get yours before somebody else does.
Mhm.
And now that's going to uber motivate probably 10 to respond and grab those first two. Now, with the ethics, what do we do with those other eight? Because we said we'd only give away two, or two remain. Well, this is where reciprocity comes into play. And there's a part of reciprocity we call a concession. So, offering someone a backup or an alternative option is a gift to them, is perceived as a gift by many people, and they want to reciprocate in kind. So that's how negotiations work. It's a push pull till we get to an agreement. I give a little bit, you give a little bit, right? Until we find this thing. So what if all right, maybe you only had two $500 gift cards to give out to people, but what if I also create $100 gift card? How many of those could I give away?
Only one.
As many as I wanted, because I didn't say
Oh,
I'd limit those.
ah,
I said only two $500 gift cards remain. So after the first two grab that, person number or three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, you tell them, hey, I'm sorry that we gave away the last two of those $500 gift cards, but I have $100 gift card here that you could use towards this purchase. Would that work for you? Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Hey, my pleasure. Right. And how many of those 100s can I give away? An unlimited number, because I didn't say I'd limit those.
huh,
So what you see is when people respond to an offer like that, the mindset is they just want to get something off for doing what they know they were going to do anyway or
yeah.
get anyway. So even though they didn't get the big thing, just getting something still satisfies that mindset and they say yes. And you can ethically use scarcity because you didn't say you'd limit the 100 ones.
So at some point, it's about combining as well, right? It's about combining them. This is so
Come on.
interesting. People hearing this or seeing us on YouTube, I do tell you that go to the description. There's the link with an amazing discount that once you're going to see it, you're going to see that I'm not kidding. And it's there and it's unlimited so far. So just run, go ahead, take a look. If it's for you, take it because it will be a really, really amazing course where you can apply this in your personal and professional life. Um, as you all know, I'm still learning about customer success. And what we tried here is to talk about the ethical persuasion with Chris as the expert, and also try as much as possible to link it to customer success. But at the end, you are seated in your office or at home or at your kitchen talking with customers or in the park, talking with customers. And this is where you can listen and grab this, grab here, grab different tips that we are given and see how it can be applied to your day-to-day activity. Now, this is part one of two episodes that we're going to be talking about because today was more theoretical and more into the psychology side of things and how you can and what each principle means. Without these principles, nothing else will actually work. So then on the other episode, we're gonna be more tactical. We're gonna talk like the do nothing option and what does that mean. And we're also gonna have some scenarios, examples here that you can all listen and maybe apply them to your day to day. Chris, thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much for all the tips that you have given. And are you ready for the next one?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Everyone, remember, keep growing, keep learning, and let's keep improving the world of customer success. Until next time.